everyone. In this video I want to talk about scenarios under which the events in LA can lead to civil war. Here's a couple of timelines under which that would happen, and it's not as far-fetched as you might think. Right now, Donald Trump is using Title 10 of the U.S. Code to send the California National Guard to LA. So at this time, we have the California National Guard operating in California. That's still a big deal, and I'll explain why in a second. However, if Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, the U.S. military will be operating in LA, and the potential for escalation in that scenario will be even higher. I know recently there was a story about the 700 Marines being sent to LA, but at least in theory, they are supposed to have a very limited purpose. For example, guarding federal buildings and other non-policing roles. So the Marines were not sent in as a result of the invocation of the Insurrection Act. Even with the California National Guard operating in LA, the image that the events in California have is one where a blue state is resisting U.S. soldiers sent in by a Republican. Even if the soldiers are from the same state they are operating in. I should say that technically a National Guard soldier is both a state and federal soldier. Here's the first broad scenario that can lead to escalation. Local LA law enforcement can enter into a clash with the National Guard. If the local law enforcement feels threatened by the National Guard or vice versa, those two groups cannot be in the vicinity of each other without a firefight. How likely is this clash between these two forces? Extremely low, but not zero. Now let's discuss the second scenario that can lead to escalation and civil war. And this one involves labeling the protesters as insurrectionists, as enemies of the state, as terrorists, or whatever term the president decides to use. This can lead to the National Guard or law enforcement behaving more and more aggressively towards the protesters. We can kind of picture the National Guard and or law enforcement behaving more and more aggressively against the protesters until the situation escalates to the point of a firefight where the protesters start arming themselves and start firing back, and it can continue to escalate after that, possibly to other cities as well. Finally, the third scenario that leads to civil war involves the normalization of military on U.S. soil. National Guard is called on more and more in other U.S. cities. The protesters continue to exercise their right to protest, and the National Guard continues to violate their First Amendment rights. Then one day, someone throws a rock or does something that causes the National Guard to open fire on protesters, leading to protesters taking up arms. Then you have two armed groups firing on each other. Now, all of these scenarios are more unlikely than likely to happen, but I'll say it again, the probability is not zero. One fact remains and underlines all of this. No matter what happens, let's never forget that it was Donald Trump that directly helped bring about whatever escalation we are going to see. Those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to encourage me to make more videos like this, and also let me know if you think the LA protests will escalate.